So the first thing to do will be to remove the top screws here and at the end, so that we're going to be able to lift out the pieces, and you can see that just comes right off. And then there's 2 screws here and at the far side that need to come out, so that we'll be able to lift this up and prop it. These don't have to be screwed completely out, just enough that we'll be able to lift up the countertop. Go for it. The piece of wood is sitting right in there to be used for this purpose. And there's a little screw there for it to rest on. Just make sure that's perpendicular up at the top so that it's sturdy.
Say, need to remove the water sensor that's on the floor.
So the water sensor is right here along the wall. Yep. So I'll take that. We just don't want it to go off because we'll get the floor a little bit wet here. We just put a towel down underneath so it'll catch some of the water.
Got to turn the water off here.
So unplug, and we're turning off the water. Yep.
Both sides.
Oh, I didn't remember that part. Okay, so both sides, there and there. Okay.
Next, we need to relieve the water pressure.
Oh, that just makes it squirt right out there. Okay.
It's relieving the pressure. Which only one will do that. Okay. Next, we put the handle.
So this is the wrench that will loosen that up so that we can take these off. So,
You can see, not that hard.
yeah. So inside each of those big white plastic cylinders are the filters that we're going to be changing out. And now they're going to be able to hand loosen them, so I'm going to stop. Hang on to help. So we just made a big mess. So we had a pot underneath there to collect the water because water came out. It took a little bit of jiggling and pushing on that valve again to release some of the air before this would come off. And now we have taken the old filter out, put the new filter in, and then this gasket was inside still, had to be taken off and put onto here, and just gently just poke it down so that it's down here in place. And now Tim's taking off the second. The big filter has a plastic gasket,
Rubber EPDM.
gasket on the top and the bottom. And what we found when we put this in the second time around is that we had forgotten that inside of here was the old one of those, and in fact there were 2 old ones because both years they stuck inside. So make sure that you reach in there and feel for a rubber gasket and take it out before putting the new one in. And in 2024 we found 2 more on the bottom of that white cylinder, so make sure top and bottom you've removed the rubber gasket. Okay, so hand tight here. With the big one is a little trickier because this is so heavy, so it is very helpful to have one person hold this up a little bit while the other person screwed this in. And now this tool is what loosened them before and is going to tighten them up now. So here, this has to be unscrewed right here so that this can come up. This comes out by just squeezing right here on these or pushing out. And you'll be able to lift this up, but it's not going to go very far until that gets undone temporarily, and then the whole thing will lift out. So yep, so now right here we need to take the bulb out, and so that just spread apart, and then it pulls up, so there's nothing to unscrew, it just pops out.
Pause.
Okay, so you washed it off, the sleeve off with a little bit of vinegar where it was foggy. It said you only have to replace it if it's cracked. You put a little bit of that plumber's grease on. Doesn't say you have to, but just makes it go on easier. So you got that in place. Okay.
Very good. All right, so new piece.
So it's a new one, so only touch it on the end. Don't ever touch the actual bulb.
So
that, does that, okay, all right.
the problem I have with this last year is that this thing.
So that gray thing was still on the old bulb, and we had to unscrew it from the old bulb to put it on the new bulb. Okay, got it.
Doesn't screw back into it.
It says, place O-ring on the sleeve as shown, insert the sleeve into the chamber as shown, ensure that the quart sleeve is properly centered in the chamber, so even a little bit off is a problem. And once it's properly centered, then you should place your sleeve bolt onto the quartz sleeve and carefully push down and hand tighten onto the chamber. When you replace the element and you're putting the new one back in, then that black ring around it has the plug that needs to fit into the top here. So you gotta make sure that's aligned as you go to snap it back into place. Just like that.
So you push the and hold
So-
for 5 seconds.
So when we turned the power back on, this was still at 11 because there were 11 days left in the past cycle. So Tim held this button down, but I forgot to hit record. So he held this button down until it started making a noise, and then
About
it
5
went to,
seconds.
It went to about 5 seconds. It went to 365, which is how many days until we have to do this again.